Hey, what is up, y'all? Welcome to the latest Conversations with Heavy Cardboard. I am your host, Edward Euler. Happy to be joined today by somebody I met a couple months ago at a local convention here at PAX East, and that is Jeremy Tracey of Tracey Boards. And so I've always, ever since I've been in this hobby, I have enjoyed playing crokinole recreationally. I had the owner of Game Surplus. I'm sorry, not Game. What is the name of the? There was a local game store that one of the guys owned, I think, like 6 different crokinole boards, and that was my introduction to crokinole. And ever since then, I've enjoyed playing it recreationally. And then when I went to PAX East, I met Jeremy and realized just how good a quality the boards can be, number one, and how good the players can be, number two. So, Jeremy Tracey, thanks for joining me today, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. I watched your video earlier this week of letting people know what was coming this week, and I'm feeling a tremendous amount of pressure because I feel like you pumped me up a little bit that I'm going to bring the entertainment. So.
No, well, all you have to do is be you, and it'll be just fine. I promise you that for sure.
That I can do. That I can do.
So okay, so let's for people out there that are unfamiliar with crokinole, give people the gist of what crokinole is.
The best explanation I've heard of crokinole is that it is shuffleboard and curling in a tabletop version. So,
yeah, I think that works. Plus posts.
Yes, the added challenge of pegs or posts or bumpers or some people even put adjectives in front of any of those words.
That is pretty spot on. So tell folks a little bit about you and your history with crokinole to start off with.
I was introduced to crokinole before I can remember, and it was actually only like less than 2 weeks ago. My mom, who's bored and going a little shack-wacky, is going through some old photos, and she sent me a picture of my very first experience playing crokinole, and I had to, she texted me this picture, and I had to say, okay, like, what's the date? When was that? And quick did the math, and I was 19 months old.
Oh, my.
And the first time I sat at a crokinole board. So she tried to say that, I didn't really play all of that well. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that but it was my grandfather Reed, who he's passed a few years ago now, but even when he lived into his 90s, and when we would go there when my kids were young, and he's in his 90s, and always the type of guy right down on the floor playing with the kids. So of course in this photo, and when I'm a baby, he's down on the floor with me, and my brother and sister are introducing us to crokinole. So yeah, literally my whole life I've been playing the game, and like you, played recreational until just a few years ago when I get introduced to the world of competitive crokinole, and it's addictive. I love it.
Okay, so how did you get introduced to the world of competitive crokinole then?
I was playing I'm Canadian, so in true Canadian style, I was playing pickup hockey. And,
as you do.
Yeah, and we're sitting in the dressing room, and it's funny. I live in a pretty small town. There's probably a population of, if anybody in Elmira is watching, I may get this wrong, but I think we're population about 16,000 here. Okay. So there are literally horse and buggy Mennonites that go past our house. Like, it's very rural, very small town. And anyway, so I'm there, and when I started playing with this group on Wednesday night hockey was the first time I met a gentleman by the name of Roy Campbell, and him and I just instantly hit it off. We just instantly connected, great chat. And I had been playing, I don't know how long I've been playing, a couple weeks, couple months. And one night somebody turned to Roy and said, "How did you make out in your crokinole tournament on the weekend?" Crokinole? You win in a tournament? Anyway, Roy is an extremely talented player, and he's done very well. I think he's placed as high as 3rd in the Worlds. So when I caught wind of that, I'm like, dude, we've got to play. So he came to my house, and we played, and it was a little ways into the game, and he hit a shot that's called a follow-through 20. So my button was closer to him.
So hold on, to be clear, the button are the pieces, to be clear, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You can. Some people call them discs. I call
Right.
them buttons because it's just, I don't know. I just call them buttons. But you can
Okay.
call them whatever you want. But okay, so the disc, my disc is sitting closer to him than the center hole,
Right.
and he shoots with enough force that, of course, it knocks mine off, but his follows through and drops into the middle. And when that happened, my chin hit the table, and I'm like, dude, did you do that on purpose? And he's like, yep. And I was like, okay. And to this day, that's one of my favorite shots is a follow through 20. It's like the power shot of crokinole. And yeah, so he invited me to a club that he played at, and it's now my favorite club to go to, the St. Jacobs Club. There's so many skilled players there. And if I miss a tournament, there's something drastic going on. I think the only one I've missed was when I was out of the country. Like I just love competitive crokinole.
Now, hold on. You said there's a club. Like I'm picturing a room that you walk in and it's nothing but crokinole boards.
This particular club that I go to, there's usually 8 tables or 8 boards being played on, and there's a whole division of crokinole that they play with cues. So they're 16 or 18-inch long pool cue, miniature pool cue, and they play. But the cues players do not play against the fingers players generally, and certainly not in competitive play. So I'm on the fingers side, but yeah, there's so there'll be.
I had no idea there was a cue side to crokinole.
Yeah, yeah. There's another club that I go to where the cues and the fingers players play against each other. What I don't like about that is there's one gentleman who likes to play with the cue. After I make a good shot, there's a sharp pain in my shins. So, but yeah, when we go to the World Championships of Crokinole in Tavistock, which is supposed to be the first Saturday in June every year, the cues are in a separate division. So all the cues players they play separately because it's just a little different game.
Oh, okay. So on that note, okay, so crokiноle's used. It's a flicking game. Well, not really. It's not really a flicking game because you don't flick it. You're more pushing it than anything. Would that be a safe assumption? Like at least at your level.
If you don't want your fingernail to hurt, yes, it's more of a push. It's that's one of the things that I hear from people. They say, "Oh yeah, like I remember playing like around here. A lot of people have known about crokinole for a long time." So I'll read comments online of, "Yeah, my fingernail still hurts from playing with Grandma and Grandpa 40 years ago." And there's a couple things that have changed. One, the boards have gotten a lot faster, a lot smoother, so you don't need to shoot as hard. But the other thing is that people have a tendency to have their finger way back, so of course it's more of a strike when it hits, whereas if you can get up fairly close and it becomes more of a push, then yeah, it's a little more finger friendly.
So the cue thing is blowing my mind. I was unaware that this even existed. Is that easier, harder? How does that, you said because the game's different, like how does that differ?
It becomes much more of a 20s game. Like there's more 20s in cues. They say, and I've been on the receiving end of this, they say a really, really good cues player will beat a really good fingers player. It just their angles, being able to line up. And honestly, Edward, you can be intrigued by it. I suspect what I know of you, if you tried the cue, you'd play a game or two and go, yeah, I'm going back to fingers.
Okay.
It's just, yeah. Sometimes there's a Mennonite population around here. A lot of Mennonites like the cues just because that's what they're used to. Okay. So they grew up playing cues. Now they try to play with their fingers and they're hitting the pegs. They're just like, oh, and they don't make the transition. The other thing that I see happen is there's people that love the game of crokinole, and as they age and they get arthritis in their hands or whatever, they will transition over to being a cues player.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that is something that that's something I think is pretty cool. Now,
yeah. It allows them to continue playing, when if they wouldn't be able to due to arthritis or whatever it is. Interesting. Yeah. So my introduction to competitive, if you will, crokinole, which I would argue I still haven't truly been introduced to it, is we had a little informal tournament at a local convention back when I was in Denver and everything, and I thought I was pretty decent. And then a few months ago, we had PAX East, and you want to I'll briefly touch on this, and then you can explain how this came about. But I noticed that there was a crokinole area at PAX East, and I was blown away by this. I was like, this is amazing, awesome, and that's where I met you. And I'd heard that you are currently, correct me if I'm wrong, the number 6 ranked player in the world.
I think I've fallen to 8th at this point.
Top 10 player in the world. Let's put it that way. Okay, fair? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm highly competitive, right? And no matter what it is I do, because that's just life. And I was like, okay, Jeremy, I want you to kick my ass. Like, I want you to curb stomp me like nobody's business, because I want to see I think I'm okay at the game. I want to see what it's really like. And you proceeded to take it seriously and utterly eviscerate me. And I got to experience exactly what that was like. And it is at a whole level that I'd seen some videos on YouTube. I had seen some stuff where the World Championships, and there's this young kid. I say young kid, I think he's in his early 20s, maybe late teens, whatever it is. Kid's a monster. And I was like, wow, like, okay, but seeing it in person and having it happen to you is a whole new experience. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but tell me tell folks how that PAX East thing came about, because that's awesome. I think that's amazing.
Oh, it was just, that was a 4 days in heaven for me. Just an awesome experience all the way around. Now, that came about thanks to a gentleman I now call my friend, Corey Arnold. He is in Philadelphia, and he got a hold of me ahead of PAX Unplugged that takes place in Philadelphia. And what did Elaine say? Elaine is my wife, and whatever was said I said something about Corey one day on Facebook here a while ago after the trip, and she was like, I'm pretty sure that's the only man I know who's more excited about crokinole than you are. Or it was something like that, or talks about it more than you do. Like, Corey is just passionate about this game. So him and I had never met, but he got a hold of me through Facebook Messenger, and he said, I'm trying to run a tournament at PAX Unplugged. Is there any way your company could sponsor or support? And I'm like, I'm in Elmira, Ontario, close to Toronto, and you're in Philadelphia. I don't really know how that works, but let's talk. And anyway, after a while, I'm like, Elaine, do you want to do a road trip? So we loaded up what I call the crokinole mobile. It's our van. I take the seats out and fill it up with crokinole boards, and we drove to Philadelphia. And I think that was a 3-day event, and we were only there for 2 days because we were so busy in the shop. We just drove down one day, we were there for 2 days, and on the third day the event was going on, we were driving back home. But the spin-off from that was then we got the invite to go to PAX East. So I'm like, yeah, right on. I don't know, maybe a little bit longer drive for us. But so we packed up and went down there, took even more boards because we kind of knew what to expect.
Sure.
Because when we went to Philadelphia, Corey had it on the schedule that we were to do learn to play from noon until 2. And so I'm like, all right. So we rolled into the city at like 11 o'clock. We fortunately got parking fairly close, and I took my cart and loaded up like 10 boards on my cart and wheeled them in and set them up. And I said to Elaine, like, we'll go in, we'll do this 2 hours, and then maybe we'll go explore the city. Well, I am absolutely a fly by the seat of my pants guy, and a lot of times it works out for me, but it almost bit me in the butt here because I'm like, we'll check out the city and then we'll find a place to stay tonight.
Oh, yeah.
We set the boards out, and we've got 10 boards out on the tables, and all the boards are full. There's people waiting, and we're saying, like, we're giving people, okay, you got like half an hour to play, but then we need you to get off so other people can get on. And I'm saying, like, man, should I go back to my van and grab the other 10 boards? And we're like, but by then our 2-hour window is going to be up. But like the people just kept lining up, and finally I'm like, I got to go. So took my car, run back, but we ended up, long story short, we ended up there until midnight showing people how to play crokinole. But it's like with no breaks. It was people lined up the entire time. So I think it's like 7 o'clock Elaine is awesome. So patient. She's been putting up with me a long time, but it's like 7 o'clock and she comes to me and she's like, Jeremy, we need to eat and we need to find a place to stay. There was a young couple who we met that day, and I mean, I think we chatted with him a little bit, but very little. And he overhears this, and he goes, "You guys don't have a place to stay?" And he was like you can crash at our place if you want to. And I'm like, I mean, that's just the kind of people you meet at these conventions. But I'm like, I really appreciate the offer. But anyway, we ended up spending more on a hotel room than I've ever spent in my life, because there we are in downtown Philadelphia, lucky to even find a place. But yeah, we lucked out and found a very nice hotel room that
Very nice, I bet.
It was very nice, and we paid for it, but it was worth it because yeah, just a fantastic experience, which led us to PAX East as well. So
and so okay, so talk about your company, because how did that come about as well? Now you create the boards, you manufacture the boards, but not just boards for your company, but for the World Championship as well.
Yes. The World Crokinole Championships, like you said, you envisioned, when I was talking about the club, you said you envisioned walking in and seeing a whole room full of boards.
Right.
It is almost surreal to walk into the Tavistock Arena. Like, I mean, you think Elmira, like I said, Elmira is a small town. I don't know what the population is of Tavistock, but it is tiny. They've got a Tim Hortons, couple gas stations, a restaurant. That's about it. And the arena.
A restaurant. That's
maybe there's a second one.
Okay, I get the idea though. Okay.
One set of lights, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, small town, but the reason they have it there is because that's where crokinole was invented. But we can. Sorry, I'll try to get back. We'll come back to that. But
all right.
But yeah, the World Championships is the only tournament that they actually provide all the boards. Any other tournament we go to, usually it's players that bring the boards that get played on, because all the competitive players have good quality boards. And it isn't uncommon for me to get an email a couple days before a tournament and they'll say, hey, can you bring 6 boards with you? So yes, of course we'll do that. Anyway, but yeah, the World Championships provides their own boards so that they can, because they've got, last year I think they had 124 boards in action.
What?
So yeah.
So that so 124 boards. So that would be 248 players at the World Championships.
There's more than that, but because the morning is doubles, so you got 4 to a table in the morning, and then the afternoon is singles. So
wow. I'll be honest, I had no idea it was that many. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is by far that's the biggest tournament there is. Like,
and it's international, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we call it the World Championships, but yeah, I think last year there were people there from 9 different states. I don't know how many different countries were represented, but there was a few. There were some people that traveled that came to that. So yeah, we are the official board builders for the World Championships. And I inherited that from I call him my board building mentor. So every board that is in action in Tavistock was either built by the gentleman who trained me, his name's Willard Martin, or by us. So
how did that come about? So okay, you've played crokinole your whole life. We established that at least. Well, hold on, maybe not your whole life, but at 18 months. So we'll let it go there.
Okay. All right. Slight exaggeration.
But seriously, how did you go about going from playing recreationally or possibly to competitively to actually making the boards? How did this come about? Because this is fascinating to me.
Yeah. See, the gentleman I just mentioned, Willard Martin, he actually, in this little town, he lives like a 3-minute drive from here. And he had been making the boards for 30 years. His dad made crokinole boards before that. And Willard he's early 70s at this point. I don't want to pinpoint the age, but he's early 70s. So it was a few years ago when he was like, you know what, I want to retire. And I am so grateful, so blessed, so thankful that, like, yeah, he's our board building mentor. He took me into his shop and showed me everything, showed me his jigs, his process. And so I started by working on his boards and learning from him. And I slowly weaned myself off of working in his shop while I set up my own shop. And yeah, for a long time, I'd be home working on boards and something would go wrong. And pack it up, put it in my car, be super grateful. It was only a 3-minute drive, and I'd show up on his doorstep, and he'd go, "Uh-oh, what's going on now?" And he'd be able to look at it and tell me what I needed to adjust in order to move away from that, whatever that particular challenge was.
Okay, but how did this come about? Like, you weren't making boards, so how, like, what? He just said, "Hey, I want to retire," and you were like, "Oh, I'll just start doing this." Like, how did that happen?
That's about it.
So, were you a woodworker, a carpenter before this, or what?
Oh man, I have a resume. I have a very interesting resume. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a farm in Nova Scotia, so the east coast of Canada, and so very accustomed to working with tools. I've done a number of construction type jobs. Probably, and this may sound weird, but probably the career that I had that lent itself best to what I'm doing now was I did a lot of aluminum work. So I worked for a company. We installed eaves trough. We capped windows, capped doors, garage doors. So working with aluminum, and I know aluminum and wood are different.
Clearly,
but yeah, clearly. But it's kind of weird the similarities between the two. Like, there's so much that I learned in that has served me in this.
Okay.
So yeah, I wouldn't call myself a woodworker before doing this. And I still have people come to me and they want me to build a trophy, or they want me to build this or that. And I'm like, no, I build crokinole boards. Will you build chessboards? Nope.
No, I build crokinole boards.
I build crokinole boards. So I'm just scratching the surface of the different things that I've done, but I've done a lot of things, and I've had the opportunity to learn so many different things. So when I went into Willard's shop with him, I just basically like, teach me. Like, there's nothing you need to rewrite here. You've got, I don't want to say a blank slate, because I did come in with a very good skill set in the coordination and the physical abilities to do it, but I didn't have things that he needed to unteach me in order to move forward.
Sure.
But what I've learned through these different things that I've done in my life is that I just go in, and if there's somebody that knows way more than me, it's just like, I'm not going to challenge anything. I'm not going to question. I'm not going to try to change anything. I'm going to do it exactly how you do it, and then I'll move forward from there. And I'm really good at learning a system, and I worked with it. I mean, we've made some tweaks and adjustments along the way, but it was like just completely and totally embraced everything he does, exactly how he did it, and then move forward from there. So,
do you want to expound a little on what that process is like? Because I have no frame. I mean, obviously, there's a crokinole board. For those watching live on YouTube right now, there's a crokinole board, I assume one of yours, directly behind you. And so that process of making a crokinole board, I have no idea, like, what goes into that. I have no frame of reference.
So the board you're looking at is actually the first board I ever made.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
The original Tracey board. It has seen a lot of hours of play with me and the boys here, and it's still very playable. It's just we got a new wall hanging unit that I wanted to put one up here. So I'm like, I'm going to hang up the original Tracey board. And
as you should. Like, that's the sentimental value alone. That's awesome. You know, some businesses put up their first dollar they ever made. I would put up my first crokinole board too, so I don't blame you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Believe it or not, one of the more challenging aspects of building a crokinole board is getting the rail around the outside.
Huh? Really? Why? What makes that hard? The bending of the wood, or?
Yeah, because you are starting with a piece of plywood that is 8 feet long, and you're wrapping it around a 30-inch circle. Without it cracking, without it breaking, keeping it tight. And getting and it's 2 layers thick. It's an 1/8-inch plywood, 2 layers thick. So the inside needs to be glued and nailed. The outside just gets glued to the inside. And I mean, you look at it when it's done, and you go, oh, okay, it's round. But when you actually think about, okay, how would you go about doing that and getting those seams tight? And that's one of the more skillful parts of it. Beyond that, I mean, as I will often say, building a crokinole board really isn't that hard. I mean, you need to know the process. Beyond that, you just need to care.
Attention to
And
detail.
attention to detail. And we've got three sons, any of which would be able to help out if they wanted to. But it's our youngest son, Nolan. He's 17 now, and he does a lot of work. He's working probably 25, 30 hours a week in the shop with us now, and he has been. He's this is the most he's worked for us, but I mean, he's been helping me for probably a year and a half. So he would have been 16 when he started. And it's only recently that I've taught him to band, and he's still in the learning curve because there's some learning there.
Band is that outer rail,
Sorry, yes.
right? Okay,
Yeah, that's
all
what
right.
I call it. I call it banding.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, he does a lot of sanding for me, and in the early stages of him learning, he'd be working on something, and he'd call me over and say, "Dad, is this good enough?" And my response is, "Would you play on it?" Because if you want to see that kid foul, take him to a tournament where there's a crappy board and he has to play on it. And he's hardly fit to look at. So, and I mean, you mentioned me being ranked in the top 10. Our all three boys play, but our middle son doesn't play as much. But my oldest, his name's Reed, youngest named Nolan. The two of them partnered. They partner together in any competitive tournament. They partner together. But last year in Tavistock, they placed second in competitive doubles in the Worlds. So they're skilled. They're very good. They're very good players. And I mean, we always say like we don't want to sell a board that we wouldn't want to play on. So when he's saying to me, "Is this good enough?" and I say, "Well, would you play on it?" And if I'm being perfectly honest, he is actually a little bit more fussy than me.
Like, which is got to make you proud, both as a father as well as, I mean, that matters, right? Like just that's got to feel good because ultimately, I mean, I like to think that I'm kind of similar when it comes to the show here as well. Like, is it good enough? Isn't good enough? Like, if I have to question that, then no. The answer is no. Not until it gets to where I don't have to question that. So I appreciate that. I think that's awesome, especially at that young an age, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he's a unique young man. But,
that's awesome. So so you started out with your mentor building these and then learning, and then how did that transition happen? Then from hey, I'm working in aluminum, I'm doing all these other things, and now all of a sudden, nope, I'm just doing crokinole boards full time, just because that's what you do.
Again, back to my wife Elaine, who is very patient and very tolerant. And when I said, this is how I want to feed the family, and this is going to be our business, and she said, "Okay, let's figure it out." So I know when I went and met with Willard to start talking about taking over and being mentored, I had no idea. Like, I mean, I love crokinole and going to these tournaments and whatnot, and I'm like, but once you buy a board,
you kind of have a board. It's not like a repeat, like it doesn't wear out.
No. So I'm like, I mean, do you sell a couple a month? Like,
right.
I mean, is this a hobby for you? Is this what's up? And anyway, Willard and his brother Bruce were both building the boards. They were both building Willard boards, but between the two of them, they were selling between 300 and 500 boards a year. So I heard that number. I'm like, okay, all right, this seems this seems like something we can make a go at, and it's something we'll ramp up toward. Fortunately, at that point, that's a super long story, but the short version is I was working.
What, you got somewhere to be? Well, I guess you do have to make boards, so there's that. Okay, fair enough, fine.
Maybe not a long story, a deep story, but.
Uh-oh, did we lose him? Hold on one second. Hold on. Everything is okay.
Anyway, I'm that part-time flexible.
Hold on. You completely cut out whatever that was. Start over. You once you said a deep story, from there out it cut out. Sorry.
That was the most open, honest, vulnerable I've ever been in my life. And clearly this is a sign from the internet, guys. I'm just supposed to keep this story to myself.
And now, folks, now you've met Jeremy. There you go.
I was saying maybe a deep story, but the short version is that when I started selling boards and building this business, I was working a very part-time job for a company that was super flexible with when I worked, so it allowed me to just easily build this, and that part-time job was just a little bit of a security blanket for me while this ramped up.
Sure.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah. And it actually happened sooner than I expected it to, that I was able to drop that. And this went from being part-time for me to being more than full-time for me, full-time for my wife, and bringing Nolan in as well.
Thanks. Shut up and sit down for that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That was the other thing I planned on doing in Philadelphia, because somebody said, "Oh yeah, he's here," and I'm like, "Dude, I am finding that guy. I'm taking him out for supper. I'm doing something," and I never got a chance to walk away from our area at all. So I've yet to meet the guy, but I had so many people say to me, "Well, you should send him a board. You should give him a board," and I'm like, "Well, that's cool, and that would be super generous." But he says right in the video, "It's great, but where do I put it?"
Sure.
So,
and this was Quinns that did that, right? Yeah. He was the one that did. Quinns is a really, really nice guy. I'm friends with, well, what was all three of them back then. It was Quinns, Matt, and Paul. And Paul has since stepped away, but it's Matt and Quinns. But Quinns is the one who did the review of it, and business did all right from then on, huh?
Oh, that video quadrupled our business.
That's amazing. That's unbelievable. It's believable, but that's amazing. I think that's really cool, and they're really good guys. So and I'm happy for you.
Oh, thanks.
So how did so the World Championships? Because there are other manufacturers out there in the world that make crokinole boards. How is it that you got associated with that? How did that come about?
Basically after. I was just saying this to somebody the other day, and I don't know if Willard would agree with this 100%, but I feel like when I was in his shop, it was kind of like a working interview. And once he saw enough of what he liked, he was like, "Yeah, okay, we're going forward with this." But yeah, once I was trained, and he went to the Worlds and basically said, "Yeah, Jeremy's the guy."
Okay.
So yeah, he had been their official board builder for all those years. And when I know I'm good friends with Nathan Walsh, who's on the committee, and as soon as he heard that Willard was training me, he was like, "Phew, there's that off our plate," because they were like, "Okay, now where are we going to find, like, if Willard's not doing this anymore, where are we going to get the quality boards that we need for this tournament?" So they were relieved, and it's a nice boost that I know that every year they're going to be looking for another 20 or 25 boards, because they replace some of the boards as well as sell some each year.
All right. So what makes a quality board? Attention to detail, just like quality furniture, anything like that. I understand that. But for anybody out there that doesn't know the difference between a all right crokinole board and a quality one, like, what would you say is the hallmark of a quality board?
The playing surface. I mean, as hard as I work to make the rail look good and have everything look good, it really, as far as the quality play, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if what was going on with the rail or the base. It's the playing surface itself that's really going to affect the enjoyment of playing. And so one of the big differences between a quality board and a cheapy board is how smooth that playing surface is going to be. Like I say, people talk about it hurting their fingernails, and people will still say that now because they pick up a crappy board and you have to hit that thing with a sledgehammer to get the disc to go all the way across the board. And I see videos like people are posting quick little clips on Instagram, whatever. And I mean, I can tell in a 3-second clip the quality of the board because somebody hits the button and the button goes like a few inches and then it comes to a stop. It just, you can just tell it's not a smooth surface, and it just doesn't have the slide that a quality board does. The other big thing is the pegs. I remember an old board that I had before I got myself a Willard board, that they were plastic pegs, so no bounce off the pegs. And there were times that if you hit the peg too hard, it would actually knock the peg right out of the board. So I'd be crawling around the floor looking for the peg. And yeah, I mean, I hear stories like that. And I had that experience myself, but I also hear stories like that of people that just play on these crappy boards. And then all of a sudden they sit down on one of our boards and like their first shot almost goes,
through the rail.
Yeah. And they're like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. Like it's just a completely different experience when you just you don't have to hit it that hard.
Yeah. Oh, you barely nudge it and it will make it all the way to the center. Yeah. Now, there is preparation that goes into making a board playable or getting it ready to play. So explain that a little bit. And is there a difference between how you set up your board and how they would set up a board, say, for the World Championships?
Set up.
Like as far as preparing the surface for play, I'm saying.
No, what we do before any board. So one of the there you go, brain cramp.
It happens. It's okay.
It does.
Yeah, I'm just glad we're not live, so don't worry about that. That's fine.
Good. The lacquering of the surface makes such a big difference. But beyond that, before any board leaves our shop, I wax it with something called Mother's California Gold spray wax. That's one of the most common questions we get is, okay, how do I maintain my board? How do I wax my board? That is hands down the product you want to use. Mother's California Gold, and it's like 4 or 5 squirts. You buff it off immediate, and you can start playing immediately afterward. The product I used to use was a paste wax that you'd buff in this paste wax. You'd wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then you had to buff it off just right. Well, if you buff too hard, it slowed the board down. If you buff not hard enough and left some wax behind, it slowed the board down. And it was a lot harder work than what we use now. So I was very reluctant to change products because I needed to be very, very careful. Did a lot of research, talked to some people a lot smarter than I am, and we zeroed in on this product. And it is, I mean, it's awesome for playability, but it's been awesome for my shoulder because
less buffing, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the number of boards that we're pumping out, it definitely makes a difference. And just the ease of use, and as well as for letting people know, because I mean, I wax that board. And the other question we get is, how often do I need to re-wax my board? Yeah, it depends. But I mean, we play on ours all the time, and it's probably every month or two that I'll reapply the wax.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's not that often. And I pick up of course I buy it in bulk. I buy it by the case of 6 bottles, but this spray bottle that I get, I am guesstimating I can wax 40 or 50 boards with 1 bottle. So for somebody at home, they pick up this bottle. You can pick it up off Amazon, or here in Canada, I go to Canadian Tire or Home Hardware, just a hardware store, and it's like $12 maybe for a spray bottle of this stuff. So it's not a big investment to keep your board running fast.
And how so? But there's also, what is the stuff that, like, it's not sand, but it's kind of gritty. Like, what is that you put on?
It's shuffleboard wax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
There's some people like to say that it's a controversy whether we should use it or not. I don't agree. I don't feel there's any controversy. You just use it because it's just a better playing experience with the wax. It just makes the board faster and a lot more fun. And the skilled people, you can. That's one of the variables that you can use is how much wax or if you wax. I mean, there's shots that I'll make that I'll just wipe the button or the disc, the puck, the cookie, whatever you want, the pawn, the playing piece. I just wipe it on my pants. So I'm just making sure there's no actual shuffleboard wax because I want it to stick where it hits my opponent's button. I want it to stay there. So you use the whack strategically. You either use or don't use the whack strategically.
And yeah, no, it was pretty funny when you and I sat down for our first match, and you were like, okay, all right, let's take some warm-up shots. You took one, said, I'm ready. It's like, really? All right, awesome. So I took a few shots, and like I said, so the way I had played, it was to 150 points. That's what I was familiar with, how we scored it, and because the center is 20, the outer ring is 15, then 10, then 5 as you get out on the concentric circles. And then whoever scored them, you peg your points and whatever. However, for the way that you showed me that you guys scored is completely different. You play by games. Go ahead.
Yes. So, yeah, and that's the way most people, that's how I grew up playing. We do a race to 100. Or whatever amount, 150 doesn't matter, but it would be the difference. So if at the end of the round, if you had 50 points and I had 10 points, then you were plus 40,
right? And
we would race to whatever the points is. And so I hear that a lot, but the way the NCA and at World, so the NCA is the National Crokinole Association, and typically what is just the standard for competitive play is you play 2 points per round.
So whoever wins a round, meaning you get 7 discs each, right?
8.
8 discs each, and whoever has the most points scores a point, or 2 points for the round,
2
right?
points.
Right.
So yeah, and it doesn't matter whether a player wins a round by 5 points or 105 points. That round is worth 2 points. So there's a reason we do that, and it's because when we go to a tournament, Tavistock is the extreme, but you've got all these tables in action. If we were doing races to 100, one game would be done in 1 round, but a game 10 tables over, it could take them an hour.
Sure.
So it just doesn't work out logistically. The other reason that I prefer this way of playing is because when you get deep in a round, you're not playing to minimize the damage.
Right.
So you can look at it late in the round, and it's a very common expression of it's Hail Mary time. We're in deep. We're down a 20. I wonder if I can get a triple takeout, bounce my piece off that peg, and put it back in the middle. The chances are probably like 0.3%, but hey, it looks fun. Let's try it. And so just the way that it's structured, the points is structured, it just leads to really fun shots. And one of the reasons I really enjoy playing doubles is because of the conversation, and you get to hear the way people think and their strategy. Going to that St. Jacobs Club, it's the way that club works is usually there's 8 of us in, say, the A pool, and we play doubles, but every game you play with a different partner.
Oh, okay. All right.
So so you end up playing 7 games. So you play with everyone once, you play against everyone twice. So there's this schedule that you follow so that it makes sure by the time you played 7 games, that's the way it's worked out. So we're playing doubles, but you're playing as an individual because you want to have the most points. It's not like you're trying to take your partner down. It's nothing like that. It's just that we still get to determine who was the best that night. Do you know what I mean?
That's awesome. Yes, I totally do. That's fantastic. And it like you said, with an individual round or individual game, you don't have to worry about, well, if I take this risk, then I'm going to be down 40 points potentially if it fails. So this way, it leads to more imaginative shots and creativity, whereas it would be a lot more protective and a lot more conservative otherwise, right?
I think so. And you'd still have people like myself that are going to go for it just because, yeah.
There was one shot you made in one of our games that you hit something, it went off a post and went into the center. And I'm just looking at this going, screw you, dude, right? And then I just look at you and I say, did? And as soon as I said did, you said, yep. In other words, did you plan on that? Was that actually is something that you were trying to do? And you were like, yeah. And I'm like, how do you? So yeah, you curb stomped me that first game, and there was a situation where I left a button over on your end of the board, on your side, and you were like, you were looking because there was a small crowd gathering around the curb stomping, and you were like, should I be really mean or no? And I said, absolutely yes, because I want to see how bad it could be, right? I want to see the level of skill. I want to see how bad of a position you could put me in. Because when you make a shot, correct me if I'm wrong here, when you shoot, you must hit an opponent's button, or else that your button that you just shot, along with any others of your own that you hit, if you didn't hit an opponent's, if an opponent's doesn't move, come off the board. So you have to hit your opponent's button.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, let's see how bad it can be. And you made a shot that basically forced me to be able to hit, or to be able to forced me to skirt the center and make it all the way to the other side without hitting a peg and making it through, because it was the only button you had on the board. And I kept trying to force it over the center hole, and that failed majestically, repeatedly. And then after the game, you showed me how there is skill to being able to like half hole it and to just skirt it over just half. And I was like, oh, but it still requires skill to be able to do that with any kind of consistency, to half hole it like that. And it was an amazing thing to watch that level of skill. And it's not just being able to see the shots, it's being able to execute them to where it just like any sport or any game that requires skill, it requires practice, and it's over and over and over and learning these things. But the thing to me that is most amazing about watching somebody at your caliber play is the way you see things on the board. Like, you see things that I'm just like, whoa, okay. So how do you get to that? I mean, playing with your kids is one thing, I imagine, right?
Yeah, that's the boy. I mean, I hate excluding my middle son. Like, Garrett is a very good player for how much he's played.
Right.
He just doesn't play as much as the other two. But Reed and Nolan, my oldest and youngest, the ones that placed second in doubles last year, the stuff they see on the board, they see things that I don't see. And so I had mentioned the St. Jacobs Club where we play, where you play with a different partner every time. That was amazing for my growth as a player, because I joined this club and you've got Fred Slater, who's the dad of the young guy you mentioned. Justin Slater has won the world championships more than anybody else. I think he's won it 6 times. So his dad, who's a very good player, Fred Slater's there. John Conrad, who's basically, he's like crokinole royalty. Roy Campbell, you got Andrew Hutchinson, you got Nathan Walsh. So some of like a number of the top 10 players. So there, as a new player learning to play, well, I'm not learning to play, but I'm learning the ins and outs of competitive crokinole, and John Conrad's my partner. So when it's my turn, because table talk is perfectly legal in crokinole. Like, you're allowed, it's not, I know there's some games table talk's not allowed, but in crokinole it absolutely is. So John Conrad says, "Hey Jeremy, what about this?" And I go, "Cool." And
you're like, "Okay, yes, sir."
yeah, basically.
Right.
Now I'll argue with him. But no, and that's something that helped my boys so much, because Roy Campbell, who I mentioned, a fantastic player, and him and I are doubles partners. But he'd come over to the house and we'd sit down and play against Reed and Nolan. So some games we'd just play, and other games we would play and we would talk. And before they'd take a shot, we'd go, "Wait a minute, what about this? What about this? Consider this." And I mean, just learning. I mean, they're little sponges. But the creativity and the stuff that they come up with on the board it's pretty phenomenal.
That's awesome, because I mean, anytime you have the ability to play against somebody better than you, that's going to elevate your game if you're taking it serious. And I think that's amazing that you have that kind of community that close, essentially, right?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And this story has popped into my head twice, so it must mean I'm meant to tell it.
Oh, please.
I can't remember if I shared this with you in Boston, but so anybody who's interested in crokinole, you're going to want to check out this YouTube channel called Crokinole Center. It's my friend Nathan Walsh runs that. So he takes the footage from competitive matches and he puts it up on YouTube with commentary. And a common question is, does he do the commentary at the time so the players hearing what he's saying? No, he does it. He does it later. It's actually quite comical to listen to him commentate a match that he played.
Oh, this. Hold on. I want to write this down. No, you haven't. What's the name of this?
Crokinole Center.
Okay, I'm so all over this. Okay, Crokinole Center. Got it. All right.
Yeah. So I mentioned that John Conrad is like crokinole royalty. So he is in so many of these matches over the years. And I remember reading a YouTube comment and somebody said, okay, is there a crokinole video that John Conrad's not in? Right? Like, he's just, yeah. He's one of these guys that just finds ways to win and finds, I mean, he's been to the Final Four in the world. I think he's won the Worlds 3 times. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, very, very good player and one of the best defensive players. Like his defensive play is irritatingly good. But there's these videos up there of competitive play. So of course, when the boys play second at the Worlds, there's a number of matches with Tracey and Tracey against so-and-so and so-and-so. So, I mean, yeah, live vicariously through my kids, so I come home to watch these videos. And Nolan, the younger one, who's got some spunk to him. He's got quite a sense of humor to him. So at one point, I think he did a double takeout, bounces a button off the peg, and comes back for a 20, grabs the 20 out of the center, pops it into the cup, sits back, and then he looks at the camera and goes, I mean, normally crokinole's played in church like around here it's played in church basements, and I mean there's a little bit of animation and fun, but usually you don't get finger guns. And I'm like, I watched this on the video and I'm like, okay, am I proud? Should I? And I mean, I am, right? But it's like I think that people know. I mean, he's not being
disrespectful. He's just like, wow, that was a hell of a shot. All right, hey.
This whole, just, swagger to him. And, it was pretty awesome to see that. So, And then Reed, our older boy, has done extremely well. Like, I think he's like one spot behind me in the NCAA standings. He's done really, really well in a number of tournaments. And I remember it was last year, he almost made the Final Four at Worlds. And watching the video of Nathan's doing the commentary, and there's just an insane shot that Reed went for, and Nathan said it perfectly. He said most players wouldn't even try that. Like what he did, like there was an opponent's button on his side of the board and another one of his opponent's buttons on the far side of the board, and he drove his opponent's button through the house to get a double takeout.
Wow, through the house meaning through the center of the board, right? Yep.
Which is extremely risky because you can give your opponent a 20 very easily.
Right.
I remember watching the video, and I remember watching it in person, and I was standing back watching this, and I saw it set up, and I'm like, I know what he's going to do. And he explored all his options. I mean, that's one of the other things you'll learn to do in competitive crokinole. Take time and
it's not timed, right? There's no chess clock, is there?
Not in semifinals and finals, but in regular play there is. You've got 8 minutes. I think it's 8 minutes to play a game of singles, which is more than enough time.
Oh God, that's an eternity in all reality. I mean, that's forever. So
that's to play 4 rounds.
Okay, all right.
It's not an eternity, but if you're playing at a good pace, it is enough time that when a situation arises, you've got the time to step back and go, You can't do that with every shot, or else, you're going to run out of time, and that's just.
Well, some of it you don't. I mean, I would argue the majority of the shots probably you don't need to do that when you're just going 20, 20, 20. I mean, it's an easy game.
It is incredibly easy, simple.
Right. Mechanically, yes. So James in chat, he's the guy who makes all our graphics. He says that you made his board, so that's awesome.
Okay, I saw that pop up, and it was something you were saying earlier, and I was laughing because I caught Rocky's question of how well do these tables hold up to getting flipped. Make sure it does a full rotation and lands back on its bottom, I guess would be that'd be my first choice because I mean they're durable, they'll stand up, but getting flipped is anyway.
And so we played. You curb stomped me that first match. That was on a Friday, and then I said, okay, Sunday I'm going to come back and whoop your ass.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday, you were eating lunch, and I came over, and I was like, hey, because Jess bought a board, the one with the maple leaf on it, and I was like, hey, when she wanted to know when can come pick this up and everything, and I was like, you were like, hey, anytime after this, whatever. Okay, cool. And you were like, hey, weren't you gonna, weren't we gonna play and you were gonna kick my ass? I said, yeah, but I don't want to ruin your meal, so please finish your meal, and then I'll come back and kick your ass.
My last supper. Yeah.
Right. And so you were like, oh, okay, all right, thanks. And obviously just trash talking. And so when you finished, came back, and we sat down to play again. And I actually scored points.
You did.
I did not get skunked in this one. And I actually had a advantage in 2 other games and then choked. So I could have scored potentially up to, we were playing to matches to 7 points, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I scored 2 points in one of the games, had the potential to score up to 6 points, so I wouldn't have won, but I could have been at least respectable. But yeah, you made me. Yeah, I will say it's intimidating playing against you because just the confidence in which you exude when you sit down, and just the way it sounds so stupid, but just the way you have your hand and you just like nudge the buttons, and the way you move, it's just like you've done it millions of times. And it's just to where I'm sitting here all like hunched over and getting the right position, and you're just like it's breathing. And it's impressive to watch the level of confidence and the level of skill, not to mention the shit talking that you do, which is amazing. Oh, it is fantastic. Yes, you. It is delicious. It is amazing. And watching your wife watch the games, and she gave me a compliment, which was kind of nice. And she was like, it was good to see you have fun because you were actually kind of in competitive mode. Like I made you work at least a little bit for some of the games.
No question. Yeah. Yeah, and I absolutely would not say this if it wasn't true. I mean, for how much you played, you were amazing. You did really, really well. And I think that if you played consistently and you could get to play other caliber players, like you would do well.
I'm not kidding when I say this. Like, I would like to, because there was another guy, and we'll talk about that in a minute, that's local, that has a meetup group here in the Boston area. And I would like to, obviously, the timing of everything that's going on in the world makes this impractical right now. But when things settle down to, quote unquote, get back to normal, that's something I would like. Because I would like to make the road trip up there at some point to come up and check out this club and time it around the World Championship sometime. And then kind of film it and kind of bring it back to the channel as well, because I think this would be an amazing experience to be able to watch in person, if not actually take part at this level of caliber. I think this is amazing to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna blow smoke up your rump and suggest that you take a run at the World Championships.
No.
I think that I think you come and you compete and you'd have fun and I think you'd do well for yourself.
I think it'd be a lot of fun provided I get some practice in and consistent practice, and I'm at a point in my game to where I feel like I'm not going to embarrass myself. Then I think that would be cool. Remind me the guy's name here locally that has
Nick Osmore.
What is it?
Nick Osmore.
There you go. And he has a meetup group here, and he was there. And he and I played, and he crushed me as well. So that was a learning experience as well. But so what is it about crokinole, though, that is so appealing to you? What drives the passion in you about crokinole? What makes this so compelling?
I love the simplicity of it. So completely respectfully, a lot of the games that you play, you're not going to see me play those. I've been invited to games days, and people will say, well, I'll send you the rules a week ahead so you have a chance to read them. And I'm like, nope. I just really like simple games, and I love dexterity games. I get the question a lot, like, what other games do you like? Probably the heaviest strategy game that I play is Settlers of Catan.
I've always said, play what you dig, right?
Yeah,
And do what you enjoy, and that's all that matters.
yeah,
So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, obviously, my channel here, Heavy Cardboard, we're on the opposite end of that,
yeah,
to where it tends to be a lot more heavy, complex, not necessarily complex, but a number of them can be.
yeah.
But there's no, it doesn't mean the games we play are better, or it's just what it is that we enjoy. And you enjoy that, so okay,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But okay, so the
Yeah.
simplicity of it, but there's got to be more that drives the passion than just the
So
simplicity of it.
I love dexterity games. Like I say, we'll play Settlers of Catan, but we'll play a game or two, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm probably good for a month or two until we want to get the kids together to play a board game again, and then we might play Settlers. Whereas if there's a backyard party and we're doing washer toss or cornhole, um, I'll be the one saying, okay, do you have a headlamp? So we can. I know the sun went down, but can you light a fire? Can we get like
Just so you can bust out crokinole.
No. So I can
Oh,
keep playing washer toss or keep
oh,
playing that
okay,
dexterity game,
gotcha,
like
okay,
something
all right.
that's a tactile. That's why like even crokinole with the cues, I don't enjoy it as much. It just I don't know. I really love the fingers because it's just the dexterity of it. Yeah. So I love the competition, but the competition is about as friendly a competition as you're ever going to get. Yeah, it's just super nice people. From a social side of it, I love the fact that I can go visit. We can go visit friends of ours, and I'll sit down with their 8-year-old daughter, and I'll play crokinole with her for an hour. And is she good? No, but it's just fun. So old people can play, little people can play it. Like you mentioned, Justin Slater, who's won the world 6 times.
Right, the young kid that I
Yeah,
referenced. Yes, yes.
yeah. If I'm not mistaken, he was 18 the first year that he won.
Wow,
3 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Robert Bonnet won the world championships at 80 years of age.
that's amazing.
What other sport in the world can an 18-year-old and an 80-year-old seriously compete? Like seriously.
I mean, the only other, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a sport, but the only other thing that comes to mind is poker. Like that would be the only other thing that I could consider that, like that age disparity. I mean, it's all here as well as as long as you're able-bodied, right? As
Yep.
long as you are capable of doing that.
Yeah. So there's that side of it, and I love the social side of it. Like, oddly, we're under like with the. You'd think I'd be playing more crokinole right now, but I don't seem to be playing as much. But there are times that I mean, we've gone through spells where Reed, my oldest, and I would sit down and play crokinole more nights than not. And some nights we'd just flick a few games and go, cool, all right, thanks for playing. And other nights we'd be in the middle of playing, like not even between games, just between rounds. And it'd be his turn to start, and I'd be like, it's your shot. And he goes, having a bit of a challenge that worked out. I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on it are. And
That's awesome.
I am not convinced we would have had that conversation otherwise. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
It's things like that. And as much as I say that, at the same time, I don't give all the credit to crokinole. I mean, I developed that type of relationship with my kids. So, but I mean, it's a conduit. It is a way for us to connect.
And it's funny you bring that up because I've joked that board games for me are in some ways a modern day knitting circle kind of type thing, to where it's very similar, whether it's social or whether it's with your partner or whether it's with your kids or whatever. It is a way to get away from screens. It's a way to unplug and have that direct interaction. And even nowadays, with everything that's going on in the world with COVID and everything else, still able to connect like how we are right here. You know what I mean? And it's it's the conduit, like you said. It is. It is, whether it's crokinole, whether it's a board game, whatever it is. I think the world needs more of that, and I think it's amazing. Yes, I agree.
So there's no screens. I mean, there's screens because people get addicted to watching the competitive crokinole online. But as far as actually playing, it gets people away from their screens, and just what was the one guy was telling me about his son, and he was looking. He had just got a board from me. He was looking forward to teaching his son because he likes to teach his son. Basically how his body works, how to get his, what do they call it, proprioception, the communication between your brain and your muscles.
Okay.
Like to be able to, the example he gave was like, it's good for his son to work on a vehicle with him, to know how to turn a nut or a bolt that you can't see. So
interesting. Okay. All right.
So yeah, it's something that's coordination, and anything like that I think is really good for the brain. And
and the skill and being able to imagine the shots and picture and set things up in crokinole is, I mean, it's the same type of thought process that goes into board games. And it's competitive like board games. And ultimately, now obviously competitive crokinole, you're trying to win and you're trying to, beat your opponent clearly, just like in a board game. But it's more than just that. It's about the process. It's about yes, I am trying to curb stomp you. But in the end, there's a mutual respect. It's about having fun with one another. It's about enjoying each other's company and being respectful, but having a good time in the process of trying to eviscerate you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's and even when you and I were trash talking, obviously I wasn't going to beat you, and I knew this. But I was going to try like hell, and I was going to, do my best to try. But even though you and I are trash talking, it's totally friendly, and it's that camaraderie that we share that is just, it makes it so much fun and just an enjoyable experience. And making you take it serious in a way was a victory for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, there we were Elaine was absolutely right when she said that, because there we were for 4 days playing. And I mean, I love teaching new people crokinole. It was a lot of fun. And it left me craving a competitive match. So Nick Osmore was there. And I mean,
and Nick's in chat right now. Yes, he's in there. Apparently, according to Extra Pint Crokinole Club, says Nick Osmore ranked 3rd in New Hampshire. So, all right. I
actually wanted to pretend like I didn't see his name, because I'm going to say something nice about him, and I don't want to go through his head. So it'd be like accidental. I didn't mean to do that. Nick's a pretty skilled player. So once in a while, if there was any kind of quiet time, he'd be like, all right, let's get a game in, or at least part of a game where I need to hit that 20 in order to win, right? Because I just enjoy the pressure of it. I love playing in a final or a semifinal. I just love the pressure. It's just, I mean, how are you going to respond to it? And I enjoy that challenge. So as much as I enjoyed teaching all those people, it was still so enjoyable that you played well enough that I had to concentrate. And I mean, you mentioned that, like, when we were playing, it was like the confidence that was there, and it's like there were rounds that you were in control, and I'm sitting there going, I know I can bring this back. I know I'm going to keep my eyes open. He's going to make a mistake, or he's going to set something up, and I take it as a huge compliment. I've heard people say, well, Jeremy will make something out of nothing. And like, as far as what's going on the board, when you think you've left me with nothing, I will make something of it, or at least take step one of getting it back toward the middle so I can get that 20 that I need. But regardless of who I'm playing against, I will not give up until it is mathematically impossible, like completely and totally. Even when it's a situation that I need you to put a 20 in order for me to even be able to tie the round, I'm still playing for that, because I've seen great players make horrible shots.
Yep, it happens. And in fact, after after our matches, you were setting things up and explaining things as to some of the strategy. And one of the things, I think the biggest epiphany moment, and one of the things that you explained to me was, if you had a lead on me, you want the game to be played around the outside of the house. You want it to stay on the outside of the board, because if it's out there, I can't score 20s and I can't catch it. It's impossible for me to be able to catch up. And so you had one of your buttons out on the outside, and what I should have been trying to do is not only knock yours off, but knock my own button off, to where it completely resets the board, to where now it forces you to play back into the house. So you had to play, yes, I'm giving you the opportunity at a clean shot for a 20. But you know what? I saw it. It did happen. You do make mistakes on rare occasion. And so that capability of giving you the potential to make a mistake, whereas if it's on the outside, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. It's going to be on the outside, and I can't do anything about it, because buttons don't move backwards. So I needed to do that. And I was like, it never even occurred to me that, and I was like, that was one of the biggest aha moments that I had strategy-wise. And I was like, oh, okay. But then it becomes a game of, well, okay, I know what I need to do. Now can I actually make the shot to be able to do that?
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many times in tournaments that I have won games won rounds just on strategy, just because my opponent didn't understand strategy to the same level. So yeah, it just created opportunities.
And that's amazing. It really is amazing like I said, it's the imagination that goes into some of the shots, and it is such a mechanically simple game. You are just pushing a button. That's it. You're just sliding something across, and that's it. But being able to see a lot like in, it's not shuffleboard, but it's on ice. Curling, thank you. Like in curling, it's playing caroms and playing off of other pieces into the posts, hopefully nothing but net, right into the center. And being able to see that is one thing, and then being able to execute it is a whole nother. And it's amazing. And Nick brings up another reason tournament scoring is so much better, and that's something we alluded to earlier, that it allows you the freedom that, look, I'm already going to lose this, and I don't care, like you said, I don't care if I lose it by 50 points or if I lose it by 5. It gives me the opportunity and the freedom to be imaginative and to be able to look at outside the box on, okay, look, is this a risky shot? Yes. But if it works, hey, I'm back in the game, And it's a fascinating game. And I am chomping at the bit now to be able to, I want a heavy cardboard board so bad. And number two, I want to be able to play against somebody, and once things settle down. So speaking of which, with things the way they are with COVID and everything, how are things on your end as far as, is everyone safe? Is everyone doing all right and all of that?
Are you talking like within my house, like my family?
Yeah. Start there. Yeah.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's all the uncertainty and trying to wade through the real news and the fake news. And, I find sometimes I don't watch the news. So sometimes I make the mistake of going on social media to just try to find a link to an article or an update or something like that. I find the shaming that's going on is exhausting. It's it's funny because I'm not one to engage on social media anyway. I try to keep it fun and light, and I mean there's so many things that I'm an opinionated person, but I don't. Yes.
Huh? Wouldn't have guessed. Okay.
I mean, there are. There's certainly things that I have very strong opinions about, but. And if you and I are having a conversation, I'll share those with you, and if we can agree to disagree, and that's cool. I'm good with that. I find that a lot of people on social media do not have that ability, so I typically don't engage. But something that I notice happening lately is I'm scrolling through, and I feel like people's opinions are on steroids now.
Yes.
So and they're just screaming louder. And I find the idiots are being bigger idiots. So there's been some posts, and I'm reading it, and I take my phone, and like my thumbs are cramping up, and I'm like, I so badly want to engage. I
That,
so badly want to. And then when I get close, it's a quote that my dad likes to use that comes to my mind. And he says, Jeremy, when you're arguing with an idiot, you have to be really careful that he's not doing the same thing.
that is good advice. That is very good advice. The thing that goes through my head in that regard is the former Jets coach. I think he still works for ESPN. Oh no, he's head coach at Arizona State, football coach, Herm Edwards. Whenever he would talk about people engaging in stuff like this, don't hit send. Right, whatever you want, do whatever you want. Don't hit send. And that happened to me yesterday, the most recently, and I was like, I wrote it, and I was like, delete. Okay, good.
Yep.
I feel better. I got it out. Good. All right. Good enough. Yeah. This is that is true. Well, I'm glad to hear that everybody there is safe. How is this? I imagine that business has got to be doing okay in a sense that, I mean, it's kind of like board games. Like, you have a captive audience right now. People are not going out and doing all these other things. So crokinole actually makes a lot of sense.
It does, and I feel bad saying it because I know a lot of people, things aren't the best for them right now. But this has actually been. It certainly hasn't hurt our business. We've seen an uptick, and the more than seeing an uptick in orders, we're seeing an uptick in people taking our rush order option. Because we're back ordered. I think regular orders coming in right now are scheduled to ship out May 15th. So it's a bit of a wait. So we've seen a higher percentage of people taking the rush order option. It's an extra $100. We'll ship it within a week rather than put you at the back of the queue. It means I work some overtime, or we make it work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, people have been. We put that option in place like last November because there were people that were like they're just like, yeah, I can't wait. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So it was my web guy made the suggestion. So we threw it out there, and a lot of people have been taking it. They love it, right? They're like, and yeah, you can wait or not. But yeah, we've seen
that seems reasonable. I mean, if they're going to want you to work overtime, you should be, reimbursed for that time. So that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess a lot of other people think it's reasonable too, because we've had we had a number of people, like once the lockdown came into place, we had a lot of people that knew orders, but we also had people that were already in the queue waiting, and they would email and say, "Can I pay the rush order fee now?" Because we're home, we're bored.
Right.
Yeah, and the nice thing for me is that I'm either in my house with my family or I'm in my shop with my family. I'm around the same people, so I can still I can still operate being respectful of the social distancing and everything like that. So
good. All right.
Yeah, we've been good that way, and like it's me and Elaine and Nolan that all work here, and our oldest son is a bricklayer, so they're actually working on a home that they're not, like, they can't stop building somebody's house, so he's working, and Garrett works in a grocery store, so he's essential services. So yeah. And how are things there? Like, I do enjoy talking to people in different areas because I'm just curious what's going on in different parts.
So here in Massachusetts, it's so this is a unique state in that they take their freedoms very seriously. They like. Massachusetts the governor is, I wish he wasn't as liberal about this as he has been, but he is trying to be respectful of people. And so the advisory, it's not even a mandate, it's an advisory, right. 10 people or less, although really it is a shelter in place, meaning everybody stay home. Same thing, essential businesses and all this. Although I gotta be honest, I got a buddy, one of the guys in my game group, Dunkin' Donuts, so Dunks is considered essential. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, no, like they don't need to be open, and he doesn't want to be open because he doesn't want to expose himself or his employees and all this, whatever. So a couple weeks ago, we had a very, very, very small group of myself and Jess, as well as Derek and Andrew. That was the four of us plus our families, and that was it.
Right.
And we didn't, so the four of us would get together, but no one else. And then our families, if you extend it out, it ended up being a total of 11 people. Right. And there were, the optics of that were not good. Streaming that, having people over still with everything. So we changed course and we decided, you know what, even though we're following the advisory, everything, we're isolating ourselves and we're doing everything above and beyond what we need to, the optics of it weren't good. So therefore we decided, you know what, we're going to limit it to where now it's just me and Jess essentially, but mostly just me. And last night we actually did a live stream of a game with 3 folks virtually, to where I had the board set up here, and then they were in through Skype, and whatever, doing that, and then we ran the game that way. But big picture wise, the majority of people seem to be taking it serious in the area, although there's definitely some frustrating things that I see, which I don't understand, which is we have a lake here in the town, and when it's nice weather, I understand we're coming into spring and the whole 9 yards, and there are people wanting to walk around the lake, which is fine. Go out, get some vitamin D, get some fresh air and all that, but just give yourself space. And not everybody is doing that, which is frustrating. The weirdest thing for me has been to the grocery store. That's been the biggest eye-opener, because my day-to-day really hasn't changed a lot because I work from home. And so my bubble here is I work in here, so whatever. Obviously, I'm not having friends over and doing all that. But the grocery store is the biggest thing, to where there's a line outside and there's space 6 feet apart. There's no kids in the grocery store. That's the weirdest thing that I didn't realize until afterwards. There's nobody's bringing their kids to the grocery store anymore, which that seems responsible. So that's good. But the aisles have one direction now. Like you go this way, and they're limiting how many people are in the store, and everybody is wearing masks, and everybody's staying 6 feet away. I'm only going to the store like once every 2 weeks. I'm not getting my stuff delivered. But outside of that, for the most part, it seems people have taken this serious. But I still see some things, like if I'm out driving, just to have the wind go through my hair and get outside, if I see that, you still see people hanging out a little too close to one another. But you can't force them, you know? So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, and
we haven't been, obviously all crokinole tournaments are postponed or canceled. The last one we had was Paddy Fest. I'm trying to think when it was. Early March. It was right before things really clamped down. And even that one, I think there were 30 some teams signed up. It was a doubles tournament. There was 30 some teams signed up, and we ended up that 19 came because the rest just didn't feel comfortable. There is, at least around here, the average age of crokinole players is not young. So yeah, I mean, if people are worried, if their immune system isn't the best and they chose to stay home, then but I remember at that point, I remember standing there in Listowel at Paddy Fest after the tournament, talking with Andrew Hutchinson and Ray Bierling, and I'm like, we had a tournament in London scheduled for March 28th. So everybody's already got that date in their tournament. We can't do it. They've postponed it or canceled it or whatever, but we've already got that date in our calendar. Why don't we just get 8 of us together, 8 top level players, and we'll just somebody's house and we'll play. And everybody at the time was like, yeah, cool, that sounds good. But within a couple of days after that, it was like, yeah, no, we shouldn't be doing that. So, there's a bit of an acronym that's floating around the crokinole community right now. Claire Kipfer started it, that he's suffering CTW. It's crokinole tournament withdrawal. So, I mean, I'm blessed that way too, because you have 2 other high-ranking players in your house. And even though Garrett doesn't play as much, like, he can still, I mean, it's a worthy match. We'll sit and play some crokinole, and so it's not complete withdrawal from the competitive, because I like to sit and do drills and just shoot open 20s, but it's not the same as playing an actual game.
Yeah, it doesn't get the adrenaline going. It doesn't get the, you're not as engaged in that. Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And there's nobody to talk to but myself, right? So
well, it still could be a compelling conversation if there's anything I know about you, though, Jeremy.
There you go. Yeah. And there's the aforementioned Nick Osmore set up crokinole through Zoom. So there was 5 or 6 of us. There was Ian Witt over in the UK and Nick, and I think most of the other people were in Nick's area, but everybody was in their own home. But yeah, everybody would have the camera down on your board, and one guy would take a shot, and then the other guy would try to place it.
Oh, that's awesome! That's how.
It is. It was a little cumbersome,
Sure, but you know what? That's still a cool way to do it. Hey, Nick, do me a favor. I'm going to here. So Nick's in chat right now, so I'm going to make him a temporary mod. So Nick, do me a favor and send a link where people can touch base. And so if they have a crokinole board or if they want to pick up one from Jeremy. So while he's working on that, so why don't you tell folks how to get in touch with you? How much ballpark, what's the range on a Tracey board and all of that, and give folks some details. So go for it.
For sure. First of all, everything I say is in Canadian dollars. So, and people ask me this question all the time, like, how does that work? Basically, if you order through the website, then you're just going to get charged the American dollar equivalent to whatever your Canadian dollar total is.
Okay.
It just, and I don't know. I think the last time I looked, it's like $1.34.
Nick's just talking trash.
That's what Nick does.
Right.
Hi, Nick. Miss you, buddy. So back to the Canadian dollars. We have 3 levels of boards. Our traditional board, that's the one that it's made of just a little bit thinner material. All of our boards will play the same because they're all the Canadian maple playing surface, all finished the same, waxed the same, everything. Just the traditional board is slightly thinner material, so it's a little bit lighter. That board will be 16 pounds, whereas our tour board is more like 20 pounds. So just, but that one's plain in the gutter, and it's got brown lines, steel screws, and amber rubber as the pegs, whereas our tour boards, they're either black or red in the gutter, unless you go with a custom color, but they're black or red in the gutter, have black lines, and then the pegs are a brass screw with black rubber. Our tour boards, the traditional boards are $270 Canadian. The tour board is $300 Canadian. And then something we added at some point last year, I can't remember exactly when, but people were asking us to make a board with a darker wood. And Canadian maple is just the best material for a playing surface of a crokinole board. So I don't want to build them out of anything else. The other thing is, like, in order to be efficient, like I just had an order come in that's enough material to make 300 tops. So that's what helps keep my cost down is buying in bulk. So all of a sudden I'm going to make one board out of a different material. It's just not cost effective. It's not it's not effective and efficient in any way. But what we did was the name of the stain is called Gray Rock. So it's still got the black gutter, but the playing surface and the rail are both stained with this gray rock, and it is such a sharp looking board. That board is $325 Canadian. And we have all the accessories. We have 20 holders with 12 different colors of buttons. The traditionalists always want the black and natural buttons. But yeah, we've got pink and turquoise and purple and white and orange. So yeah, some people like to pick their favorite sports teams colors or their school colors, or some people just like getting those colors for their kids. And whatever people want is it's what we try to do within reason.
And what's the website where folks can go and order?
CrokinoleGameBoards.com.
There we go. All right. So good stuff. And now I know you said that you're not huge on social media. However, you're it's actually scrolling underneath us right now, but your Twitter is @BoardsGame. So boards plural, BOARDSGAME. How else can folks get in touch with you?
So I said I'm not super active on Twitter. I spend more time on Facebook or Instagram. And yeah, our handle everywhere is crokinole game boards. Now Twitter just took the last part and switched it there to give me boards game. But
Okay.
if you look up crokinole game boards, you should find us on Facebook or Instagram, as well as on YouTube. So yeah, we have a number of tips videos, as well as we did a video about the official NCA rules. That's all on our YouTube channel. Now, it was last year, right after the Worlds, we started a series of 52 tips, and the goal was to do a tip a week for 52 weeks. And then what happened was 4 weeks later, Shut Up and Sit Down video came out, all of a sudden quadrupled our business. I managed to get a couple of more videos out, and then it got to a point is like, do I make a board or do I make a video? And yeah, that series fell off, but we do intend to get back to it and yeah, get some more quality videos up there to give people the different drills and things they can practice at home. And I'm going to make them available to everyone but Edward, because like I want to keep that upper hand for our next match.
Fair enough. And yeah, you've learned how much work goes into video production. And you and I are going to talk about that going forward. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember we got too busy to do we got away from doing the YouTube videos. So then I started doing Facebook Lives and a couple different things. And somebody commented and saying, I much prefer the edited videos on YouTube. I'm like, so do I. But I mean, there's time. Like the nice thing about a live is you push play, and when it's done, you push upload or whatever, and it's done. But man, when you go to edit something, and I put little blooper reels at the end, which were a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing it. But like we're in a better place now, production wise. We're more efficient, so it's freeing up some time. But I mean, then when I was trying to catch up on all these orders coming in, it was. By the time I was done working, I had nothing left in the tank when I sat down in front of the computer to edit a video, right? Like, yeah. And yeah, if you've done video editing, you get it. You know, it's work. And yeah.
There's certainly there are perks to doing things live, but all the work is on the front end as opposed to the back end, right? And preparing for this stuff and everything. So
yeah.
So there you go. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jeremy. This has been a lot of fun, man, and I appreciate the I guess the learning the aspect of just how much seeing the passion in you. I think is what I enjoyed the most out of this, more than anything, and how much you're passionate about it. Yeah, just how much you dig crokinole. I think it's not just a job, but it's I mean, it's a huge part of your life. I think that's amazing.
I don't think I could do the quality or the quantity that we do. I don't think I could do either one without the passion. Yeah, it would feel like work. And as much as I work, it doesn't feel like work. It's just awesome.
That's fantastic, man.
And getting to get out there and meet interesting cats like yourself, and even that Osmore fellow that.
So, okay, before I let you get out of here, because this is a official conversation with Heavy Cardboard, I have a series of 6 questions that I ask everybody that you are not going to be any different. So, off the top of your head, first thing that comes to mind. Here we go. You ready?
All right.
All right, a series of 6 fun yet thoughtful questions. Quick fire. Here we go. Number 1, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you are?
32.
Why?
Oh, wow. Is that question 2 or is that question 1A?
That's 1A.
I don't know, man. Big kid at heart, I guess. I mean, I could go the other way too, because I've got a 21-year-old, which I don't know if it should make me feel older, but it doesn't. So yeah, I'm sticking with 32. I don't know. I just like to do things that I guess maybe my favorite pastime at crokinole. Some people think it's an old person thing, but I just like to go and do. A few years ago, I learned to ride a unicycle because I thought it looked fun.
Fair enough. All right. So number 2.
Yep.
If you could master one skill that you do not have right now, what would it be?
One skill?
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it comes back to the videos. That's
Video editing? Yeah.
yeah, video editing. Yeah, some of the stuff like we talked about, like the type of setup you have to share. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yep.
If you could have dinner and conversation with any person in history, who would it be? Famous or otherwise?
Edward from Heavy Cardboard.
Oh, stop.
Yeah. Oh, this is supposed to be rapid fire. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. But who comes to mind?
Maxwell Maltz, Dr. Maxwell Maltz.
Okay. Why?
Because one of the most fascinating books I've ever read, but it was a heavy read, and it would just be cool to. I'd rather talk to somebody than read. I'd rather listen. I'd rather listen to an audiobook than read a book. And that guy, he wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it's about how your subconscious mind is driving the ship. And I get it, but to talk to him and just understand that on a way deeper level than I do now, I think would be very beneficial.
That's awesome. I love that answer. That's fantastic. All right. Number 4, what are 3 things that you want more of right now? Could be physical, characteristics, ideas, anything. What 3 things you want more of?
Organization.
Okay.
Fitness.
I agree with that one. Yeah.
Well, you're not hearing something.
No. I'm me. Not on you. Not on you. Stop.
Yeah, that's lagged a little bit lately. I'm very active, but it's not the fitness that I'd like. And sorry, so 3 things I want more of.
Organization, fitness.
Travel. Sorry. The answer should have been crokinole. I want more competitive. Damn, I want to play crokinole. Yeah, Nick's saying it. Yeah, playing crokinole. Yeah.
All right, good stuff. All right, number 5. What do you appreciate the most in your friends?
Honesty.
Yep.
Kindness. Not nice. Kindness. And and maybe I'm telling you something you already know, but the way it was explained to me, a nice person will tell you what you want to hear. A kind person will tell you what you need to hear. And that's one of the reasons that I have so much respect for Willard, because a compliment from him meant a lot, because he is not afraid to tell me when something wasn't up to snuff. And yeah, just brutal honesty.
Good stuff. And last but not least, but honestly, I think I know the answer to this already. What's your absolute dream job?
Oh, this is it. This is it with more PAX type experiences.
Yeah, that was, it looked exhausting for you, but it also looked like you were a kid in a candy store. Like, it just brought you so much joy seeing everybody. I mean, the boards had to wait 24/7, it seemed. It was amazing to see.
Oh, my voice was fried. I was tired, and we were over there at 8 in the morning to get set up before they opened the doors at 10, and there were nights that I was kicking people off the boards at midnight. And but yeah, I love what I do. I am very social, so to have more balance between the time in the shop and being out and sharing this game. And I wish there was a competitive crokinole tournament every weekend. Or, you know what, I would alternate between a competitive crokinole tournament one weekend and the next weekend a PAX type experience, and just toggle back and forth between the two would be, there's my dream. Yeah.
There you go. That's awesome. Well, hey, Jeremy, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm the world's biggest 5-year-old. I always want to know the why about things, and being able to do this is honestly one of the biggest joys I get from this show, is being able to sit down with interesting people and being able to learn about things that I don't know. And this has been awesome. I really appreciate this, man. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you. This has been a blast. I just, when you said we were wrapping up, I looked at my phone and went, holy cats. Like, Yeah, we've been here a while, but it doesn't feel like it to me. I don't know.
See, and okay, then mission accomplished. Good,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, and everybody that watched this live, whether it's Nick or any of the folks out there that are interested about checking out crokinole, definitely check out crokinolegameboards.com. Give Jeremy your business if you are capable as well as interested. So there's that, and I will be back tomorrow with. Well, let's see. It's Command and Colors Ancients, so I will be streaming that tomorrow at 3 p.m. So thanks, everybody. Big thank you to Jeremy and honestly, the missus, because she's, and the patience that she's had with you through all this. So I definitely am grateful for that. So yeah, this was a blast, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.